And yeah, sorry I don't have my normal studio and stuff like that. I'm actually on quarantine right now. So
No worries.
cool. All
The
right.
first
So
one we haven't seen with a big wall of nerd stuff behind them.
yeah.
He'll do it in post. He'll put it in
Yeah.
post.
Hey guys, welcome to Inside Comics with George McHale. Today my guests are Howard Wong and Josh Stafford. Thanks for being here, guys.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Really quick, if you guys like this content, hit that subscribe button and tell a friend about it. So you guys have a cool new book called Damn Cursed Children out from SourcePoint Press, and we'll get into that in a moment. But first, I'd like to talk about being a professional in the comic book industry. I think for people kind of breaking in, they might not know all the kind of ins and outs of acting, convention etiquette, and just how to present yourself to editors or other publishers, and even other writers and artists in the industry. I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's going to sound weird when I say this, but you act professional, but it's actually it's the case. Especially if you're looking for work, it doesn't matter, be it an artist, writer, letterer, colorist, inker, same thing. It's like going for a job application. You don't go and run in and screaming and shouting and pointing at things at people when you go for a job application. So same thing applies, be on the convention floor and after the convention floor, and I'll talk about that in a sec. That's a little of a gray area as well. So when I started out, I had a portfolio of work. I mean, I was a writer, so I had some short stories that was drawn up by people I hired in the past to show my writing. So I had the script as well as the art and stuff. And I just walked around and see who would be willing to look at it. And a lot of people don't, because maybe they're not scheduled for portfolio review. It doesn't matter if it's art or writing or what have you. So if they don't, ask them when, and if they have one during that convention, and try to see if you can get on that list. Because usually they have a schedule, so you do that. You be professional. Now, if they say they don't have a list, they're not doing it today, that's fine. See if they're willing to give their contact, so you can send it later. So you just work your way down. Like if the person is really not wanting to look at your stuff, don't push, because for whatever reason they're not going to look at it. And if you push enough so that they end up giving you a contact information, they probably will remember you not in the best light. So be professional. Also, I think the biggest one is personal space, and I've seen this, and you hear stories about it, but there's a lot of places you don't talk to people. And again, if you're going for a job application, it's the same thing. You don't follow the manager into the bathroom and then talk to them when they're doing their thing. Don't do that. You don't do it to anybody, because it's just weird, for one thing. And yes, have I seen editors and publishers, in the bathroom, going to the bathroom? Yes. Do I talk to them? No, because that's weird even for me. Like, how do you even strike a conversation, to be honest? So, in that area. So try to avoid that. Same thing if you're eating. I mean, can you imagine yourself, you're having a long day, convention is work, by the way. So you're having a long day at work, and then somebody starts talking to you about work as you're eating. Not the best time, but you can ask them when's a good time to talk to them. That's okay, because it makes sense for you to find out when. So that's all right. Pick and choose your time. I mean, there's times where I see, there's a lot of editors and publishers who also are artists and writers, and they're signing books, and you run up to them while they're doing that and ask them for a job. No, not a good time to do that either. So you just be professional, be smart about it, and be prepared. Like, don't just come up with, I have ideas for X, Y, and Z, and this is why you should hire me. It's like any job. You have a resume. You got to have proof of, that you can do these things and show that you can. And especially for people who aren't visual. So basically the writers, right? You have to have a body of work or something. And it's hard. I know, it's like, how can I show a body of work if I don't get published? You do your ash cans, you do your own things. Listen to critiques, follow them up, and use them. Those are free, in quotation, that's free advice. You ask yourself, if you go for a job interview, how many times does that interviewer tell you, you should have done this, this, and this, and then maybe you might get this job. No one does that. So comic books is a very interesting industry where they actually tell you what to do to come back to them. What other industry does that? No one does that. It was the next person interviewed. This is the candidate, done, and then it's done for them. So it's a very interesting industry to go into. Last thing I'll talk about is the gray area I talked about after the con. A lot of people think that, oh, if I go to the bar or restaurant that X, Y, and person is in, I can talk to them directly. It's outside the con floor. I get them all to myself. Yes and no. They're there to enjoy, relax, and have fun because maybe they had an 8-hour day, or longer, because don't forget you have to set up and all that. So it's not, to me, not the best place to talk about that. It's for them to hang out. If they so happen to ask you that question, what are you working on, or can I see what you have? That's when you pull it out. That's totally fine, because they're asking for it. They're not, you're not there upselling yourself to it, right? So you'll see it, and I know a lot of people have seen it, both who are professionals and who are not, trying to break in. People burning themselves and burning bridges by forcing their way into a conversation, forcing their portfolio into someone. It's like, hey, take a look, because you just stopped drinking, so here you go. And you sit there, you're like, don't do that. You go. That's not good, because now you just made the whole situation weird for everybody. Because what are they going to say? No to you, most likely, in the nicest way possible, and then try to enjoy the rest of their night. So you pick and choose your thing, man. Because sometimes you're talking to them on the con floor, and they tell you, "Come meet me at the bar and show me what you got." I'll have a few minutes for you. Then do that. Follow up on that. So you have to understand that that weirdness of, yes, you're there, you're seeing them, you have access to these people, but you have to be very professional about it. So that's my take on it. Be polite, and when they're in the private time, leave them alone, kind of thing. I guess would be my biggest takeaway for that. How about you, Josh?
In terms of Comic Cons, what I always think about is just getting yourself out there and meeting people is a big first step. And I'll talk to people who are afraid to do that, or who are too shy to do that, and don't want to get their stuff out there. And you gotta like, rejection and critiques and meeting people. And if you look at Howard and I, we met at San Diego Comic-Con over a decade ago, and I didn't have a plan. It wasn't like a long con of like, I'm gonna meet this guy, he's written for Image Comics, 10 years from now we'll finally have a comic book out. But we met and we became friends, and we shot some ideas back and forth. And then in my journey over these years, I did some little comic books called Zomkies, and they were just little small print runs, kind of hard to find. But that got me into Comic Cons. That had me meet people. Just meeting people and networking, and just even people you might not work with, but who then know you and have nice things to say about you. All that helps. And now, like, this past year, I always joke that nepotism is not a bad thing, as long as you have a little bit of talent and you're good at what you do. Because in the last year, Howard and I finally got Damn Cursed Children off the ground, which was greatly helped by Howard meeting a publisher at a Comic-Con. And Howard knew an artist from a previous project he was working on. And we got that done finally. And in that same year, I got this story in Flip Volume 2. I wrote an episode of DC Superhero Girls because a couple people I know were working on that show. And I pitched a bunch of ideas to them, and one snuck through. But if I just hadn't have put myself forward and said, hey guys, need some ideas for your animated series, or if Howard and I hadn't just been through the trenches and not given up on this project, now Damn Cursed Children is out. And I'm so happy that it's getting some really nice reviews, and people are reading it, and stores are selling out. And, that wouldn't have happened if we didn't go to Comic-Cons and meet some people.
I think talking about etiquette, some things to consider if maybe you're new to comics would be, if a creator that you like is talking with the customer, wait your turn.
Yes.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Don't interrupt the sale. That's a bad thing to do.
I can't believe sometimes you see that.
Yeah, I've witnessed some super nice comic artists, and someone will come up And this always blows my mind because I'm like, get one autograph, get two, get them to sign your favorite book. But I've witnessed someone come up, and someone who should know better. It's not a 12-year-old, it's like a 30-year-old, will walk up with, I'm not kidding, like 50 comics, plop them down on top of the artist's portfolio that they're selling prints or original artwork out of, put it down, and then just start bugging them. And so that's more of a customer etiquette, but nonetheless, like you got to treat people nice. You got to have respect for people, and an artist will never mind if you walk up and hold a book and say something nice about them and get an autograph. They'll never mind that. But yeah, and so yeah, if you're on the creative side of things and they're selling books, they got a lineup, they're doing sketches for people. You can't go up and start pitching your mini series to them because they're on the job. But yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, every time I see that, I cringe. I feel so bad for the person on the other side of the table.
Yeah,
And
like that's a big thing. Don't put your stuff on top of people's
Yeah.
stuff on their table. If we want them to hate you forever. Yeah, that's what you don't do. I've seen that. I had that happen a few times where people drop, and I kid you not, it's like a duffel bag of stuff. You're like, can I put this here on your stuff? No, you can't.
Yeah.
These are my books I'm trying to sell, and if you crush them, I can't sell them. It would damage them all.
yeah,
But it's always that weirdness of why would you do that? There's a whole floor there that you're welcome to put your stuff on in front of my table. But yeah, it's the same thing for be it whichever publisher. I'm not going to name publishers. I mean, you don't drop your stuff on top of their table. That's a big instant no. I've seen that. I've seen somebody try to pitch, and they're like talking. They're doing really good, and sure enough, that giant backpack. I have a giant backpack, and they plopped it on their table. That conversation died so fast, and you sort of see it in slow motion. It's like, no, don't do it. No, oh, he did it. And
yeah.
then the
I've done
conversation,
that. I've
yeah,
done
we'll
that
get
one.
back to you.
I felt
That's
really embarrassed.
I
They're like, "Oh, please don't put that there." And I was like, "Right, yeah, obviously. I guess I'm just excited. Sorry."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it makes sense, and I know, like, it's easier to put it there. You because you're hearing a conversation, you don't think about it, but in the back of your mind, it's like, the floor is where it goes. That's it, between your legs, whatever it may be, to keep it safe.
and I think maybe
Probably,
the
probably
last one I
forgot
want to
about
talk
that.
about is don't talk shit about anybody. I think a lot of new people to the industry think it's okay to like trash other people's work. It's not. Like, you the people that you're probably talking about probably have a ton more experience than you do. And also, you never know in this industry who's going to be helping who in different points. So be professional, be polite, and don't be saying negative things about other people's work.
Absolutely. It's like, yeah, it's like I mentioned before, being a professional. You don't go and go, this, my coworker here did a blah 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 to another coworker. You don't do that. You try not to do, at least I hope. But the thing is, in comic books, it's an industry, and in any kind of industry, we all know each other. Like, literally, people like, do you know so and so? I'm like, yep. And then they stop talking, like, oh, you're gonna say something bad. I think I know it because you stopped talking, but you don't. You just no, And the thing is, my favorite thing to talk about when this happens is when people goes, XYZ creator was kind of not nice to me because of, I don't know, they didn't like my face or whatever. I'm like, they could have been having a bad day. You never know. Maybe they got they found out something went wrong. I mean, I was honestly, I was at a convention once, and my wife got in a car accident in the middle of it. And I was like on the phone talking to her, and this guy, I remember this guy wanted his book signed so badly because he had to go. But I'm like, I'm sorry, I really got to take this call. And like, I do want to sign that, but you have to wait. And I was being a real kind of a dickish to him. Like, I kind of know that, but I was dealing with something that I didn't want to share with the world, right? Like, at that moment. So you never know what they're going to be dealing with, and you got to take that in this industry, and take that understanding of we're all human beings, whatever reason they're not feeling that spirit of being at the con at that moment, right?
Yeah, and like you got to remember too that it's a weird business because artists and writers, a lot of them they spend all their time at home sitting in front of a laptop or drawing in their art studio. So we're not performers, it's not like an actor or someone you would see on a news program or something like that. Like, so when you are meeting people you admire, don't be offended if they're a little shy, or if, because I've met some people who I love, and it's been great. And some I've even become like friendly acquaintances with online, and I'll see them at cons and get a hug and everything, and it's great. And then I met some who are super shy, and they weren't rude to me, but I got my quick autograph, and that was about it. And I don't bear the ill will, and it's a weird business where comic artists and writers are a celebrity for like this many people, and when you're in a con, you're just in the zoo. So it's like, just be nice to people. Don't be offended if they're not you know giving you a hug and super nice to meet you and everything. And yeah, and it's weird. It's like people forget there's a human on the other side. So it's okay to have your opinion, but just don't be dumb about it. Like I've witnessed people standing in front of the creator and saying bad things, and like just commenting on the book in a negative manner. And I would never like I have met some artists who I'm not a fan of at all, and we're the nicest people in the world. But I wouldn't bring it up in conversation, like, oh, by the way, not a fan. Like, you just kind of let that slide. So yeah, it's strange. I don't think it's just in comics, in everything. You forget there's a human on the other side of that creation, and you're saying bad things to. And it's funny. I've been reading some old books lately, and some of them actually have the letters pages still. And I don't know if it makes you feel better or worse that you're like, oh, there were still idiots saying bad things about Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, like people writing into the letter columns and saying they didn't like their art. So you're like, oh yeah, it's always there. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. Just be nice. Be nice to everybody.
Okay, now let's talk about Damn Cursed Children.
Yeah.
How did this project come about?
Well, as Josh mentioned, he liked to tag along on kind of conventions with people, which is because he helps, actually. He doesn't just show up and then leave us. He actually helps man a table, and it sounds weird. So he can go to the bathroom and get food. No joke. It's actually very, very helpful. So he called one day when I was really sick, at that time my kids were like in daycare, so I was having to plague and sick in bed. And oh gosh, he calls about not me. The first thing he asks, like, so you're going to like Fan Expo? I'm like, I don't know if I'm alive. Sure. You want to go? It's like, yeah. Oh, fine. You're in. Don't worry about it. You're gonna be the one running around for me. It's cool. And then he asked me, he's like, are you sick? I'm like, yeah. Are you still sick from like last week, or is this like a new sick? I'm like, I think both. And then he's like, is it for your kids? I'm like, yeah. And then he blurted out, Damn Cursed Children. I'm like, ooh, that's a good title for a book. And then he told me I should write it. I was in the condition to do anything but not die. So I told him, you write it first, and I'll tag along, and we'll both write it, and then we'll figure if it's good or not. Because right now in my brain, it sounds great, but I'm sick, so I don't know. And that's where it started. And then I wrote I was editing his stuff and adding notes and stuff when I was in bed. And then when I got better, it became a thing. And that's where it started from. And then we got the amazing Robin Simon Ng, who's a great artist from Singapore, involved, because he was supposed to be my artist for After the Cape 2 from Image Comics, but then he decided to have a kid after he got greenlit to be the artist. Didn't have time for it, so he dropped out, but I kept him in my back pocket to contact when I had something cool, and this was it. And he loved the idea and decided to join up on this crazy adventure of, kids going feral and killing adults, and for whatever reason. Don't forget, he's like was a new father at that time, so I was sort of like, are you sure? Because I have kids, and I kind of like, they're a little taller, so I kind of understand where the story could go. You're a new dad, so I don't know if you understand implications of drawing these horrible scenes to kids or not, but if you're in, that's great. So
it's just like a really it's a good example of following through on inspiration and collaboration, because if I get credit for coming up with the title by mistake, Howard gets credit for saying we should do this, and then I kind of put a bunch of rough stuff together, and then Howard polished it up, and then we just through the magic of the internet went back and forth on drafts forever and ever, and then found an artist, and then the artist went away, but we stuck with it and said we want this artist to finish the book instead of finding somebody new. And then years later, Howard managed to trick his way into getting us a publisher, and now we're here. But it really is it's one of those, like, I think with everybody, no matter what your artistic genre is, it's your 10-year-long overnight success story. And now, we're not top of the New York Times bestseller list or anything, but just these little accomplishments I'm so happy with, of just getting nice reviews and doing all these podcast interviews, and our publisher seems to be kind of happy with us. So
Kind of.
kinda, yeah. But it's that it's following through on an idea and kind of sticking with it, which is big. I think there's so many people out there who are way more talented than I am, but they don't do it. I hear that so often, and I'm like, they're like, "How did you do this?" And I'm like, "I don't know. We just did it." You just kind of you got to keep trying.
Can you give us the elevator pitch of the book?
So on a day like any other, a young daycare teacher is going about her work. She hears something strange and looks outside and sees a world gone mad. All the children have gone insane and turned into ferocious little gremlin monsters. And then throughout our story, it's a day in the life of this horror. Starts in the morning, ends at night. A group of strangers get together to fight off this terror, and we see how they do so. How these normal, everyday people get together to survive in this world of the damn cursed children.
It sounds amazing. It sounds totally bonkers. Um, okay, so if people want to order your book, can they go into their comic book store and ask them to bring it in, or should they go to sourcepointpress.com, or both, or what should happen?
Both, actually. First, go to your local comic book shops, please. They actually do need you to go there, order stuff, pre-order everything, and more importantly, pick them up. So yes, because we're in previews. So if you just mention Damn Cursed Children to any comic book shop, they can order it for you. As well as going to the SourcePoint Press website. They actually have digital copies as well as hard copies, but definitely go to the store first. SourcePoint Press makes it available on the website because a lot of stores unfortunately have shut down. So a lot of people are without a local comic book shop at this moment, at this point of time. So they're helping out that way, but definitely the shops first, and then SourcePoint Press.
Yeah, and I do know that like I've sent a lot of non-comic nerds to comic stores, cousins and uncles and aunts, and it's weird. Like it's not as easy to buy a comic as it is to buy a novel or a CD back when CDs were a thing. So first you have to explain to them how to do so. But I just give them the brushstrokes of just, it's in this thing called previews, which is a catalog that comes out every month. And if you phone or email, or if you're in the position to go into a store and say, I want this comic called Damn Cursed Children from Source Point Press in previews, they'll help you out. And comic store people are great because they're dealing with mums and dads coming in to buy comics all the time who, don't know the ins and outs. So I've definitely sent a handful of normal non-comic geek humans who have been so nice to go out and support us and buy comics from the local shop. Because here in Ottawa, they're sold out, which is great. But you can still get it. They're just sold out for now. But it's a nice feeling. All these little sellouts across North America we're getting.
Yeah, this it's a 5 issue miniseries, so you can ask them to get the whole thing. Definitely not for kids. It's definitely a mature reader thing. Just so the mom and dads out there want to know, it's like, should I give it to my kids? No, don't. Please don't. But it's so much fun for adults to read, to be honest. So definitely check it out.
Awesome.
Though I do say I want it to be like the way I saw horror movies when I was too young on VHS. I want those stories of like 12-year-olds reading this and that being their first foray into horror movies or horror comics.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Okay, guys, I want to thank you for being on Inside Comics. Howard Wong, Josh Stafford. Thanks so much. I encourage everybody to go out and look for Damn Cursed Children. Peace, guys.